People always ask me, what is the most important thing when you're planning for retirement, or the important thing in retirement? Well, I can tell you the most important thing. We're talking about financially now. Obviously, your family is the most important, all that kind of thing. But the most important thing in retirement is cash flow. Cash flow is key. Always go for cash flow. In other words, if you got $10,000 a month in bills, have $15,000 a month coming in. I'm telling you right now, it doesn't matter how much money you save. It matters how much you spend, and it matters how much cash flow you have. And if you have a lot of cash flow, your life will be easy. Because think about it, like during your working career, hopefully, you always made more than you spent, right? In other words, you got money coming in, you put the kids through college, you save money every month, you went on vacations, you put money in your 401k, you did all the things you're supposed to do, and you always had a little extra at the end of every month, right? Well, in retirement, it should be the same thing. Your perfect retirement would be getting the exact same income when you retire as when you're working. Now remember, you're not gonna be putting 401k anymore. And if you're contributing to pensions like a police officer, fireman, you won't be putting that money in anymore either, or your 401k. So therefore, your net after taxes, you're trying to replace that, not your pre-tax income. Like I've got sometimes police officers retiring 100-something thousand, they go, their pension's only 80. I go, but yeah, when you take your net check, it's gonna be about the same, okay? Because remember, you're not putting in retirement anymore once you're retired. But everybody that says, what do you use for income then? Okay, because you can use growth on stocks, which is a bad idea, because you can't count on growth on stocks. In other words, if the stock market goes down, you can't not pay your bills. So you can do dividends on stocks. The problem with that is you're talking about 1.5%, maybe 2% on the S&P 500 in dividends. And if you concentrate on a whole bunch of great high dividend stocks, you're probably overly concentrated in an industry like oil and gas or something like that, which works great right now. But when oil drops below a certain amount, forget your dividends and forget everything else. And your bills, your electric bill, water bill, property tax, doesn't care if the market's down. So that's why you can't use those. CDs are fine. Problem is you just can't get one long enough. Bonds are okay, but eventually you will have to renew a bond. So you can only get one so long. One of the best things I like for income is annuities, but it's only the fixed kind. I don't like high fees of any type. But annuities right now, if you defer, say 5 to 10 years, you're talking about 10 to 15% payout guaranteed. In other words, $1 million going to pay you 100 to 150,000 a year for the rest of your life. That's the highest numbers I've ever seen. And so what it does, even if I have 10 million, it allows me to take 1 million and get 150 grand a year out of that. If I had my Social Security and stuff like that, maybe I'm up to 200-something thousand a year. Because a great retirement would be making 20,000 a month and you only got 10,000 a month in bills. Okay, and so those are something to consider right now. When rates come down, they'll go down too, but they're always an option, because otherwise, let's say I've got to produce 100 grand, right? Well, I could put in $1 million in annuity and produce 100 grand. I could put in 2 or 3 million in bonds, or 5 million in dividends just to produce that same 100,000. It's just more effective, efficient use of that money. And so don't believe the hype. Annuities are the devil's work from the stock guys, or from the stock guys, the stock market's a Wall Street casino. They're both just tools. There's nothing wrong with stocks. There's only one thing. Stocks have been the #1 beater of inflation over the last 100 years, better than anything else. So, but they're not good at producing income. Fixed annuities been around a long time, one of the safest products in the world. And they're great at producing income, not as much producing growth. So you use the tools you have. I want the most income, use income producing tools. I want the most growth, use growth producing tools like stocks. Okay, but if you stick to that and always trying the most efficient thing, your retirement's gonna be a lot better than you could ever imagine. So just remember, cash flow is king, not trying to take gains off of stocks or living off RMDs. Cash flow. Make sure you have a guaranteed income source, all right? Just like your Social Security is guaranteed, just like your pension is guaranteed, okay? But that's why I like annuities for that piece. But you can use bonds or CDs. It just takes more to get the exact same results.